Hello everyone, my name is Harsh and a very warm welcome to all of you in this block state management course. And in this video, we are gonna learn about block providers or something called as dependency injection. So if you are hearing this term for the first time, it might look a bit fancy, but as we proceed in the video, we will understand what it is and how it is done. And now this is the basic project that we are working from the past few videos, and if you are not recollecting it, I can give you a little quick overview of that. So there is just a main app in which we are just using a block observer, and we created in the previous videos. It does nothing, it only prints on create and on change for the block. Okay, now moving to the main, we are navigating to the home screen. So inside home screen we just have two buttons, a block button and a cubit button, and which does nothing, which moves to their respective screens. So if I click on this, I move to the block screen, and inside block screen we are just creating an instance of counter block. Now if you want to see this counter block, this is the counter block that we created in the previous videos, okay, which have event handlers and increment and decrement function, and the same we have created for a cubit. So this is a counter cubit and there is an increment and decrement, and this counter cubit is being used here. Okay, and as we move down, we are just incrementing the cubit on the tap of this and block as well. So this is the project that we were working on. Now let's assume a problem. The problem goes like this: if I move to the block and I tap this 2 times and I just open my terminal, what you will see is counter block is being created. Now why this is printed 3 times? Because I moved to the screen 3 times. So on each transition, block is created again. I can verify it by simply going it again. So you will see again the instance of counter block is created, simply this one, because it is a private variable. Now what I want is, when I go back and come back to the screen, these 3 should be preserved. So how we can achieve that? So one way to do is creating a global block instance, or we can create a global variable, and when we move to this screen we initialize the block with that variable. So this is a one way to do it. And another thing, if I wish, this block should only be created once rather than again and again and again. So to do this, we can use something called as BlocProvider. So what I am gonna do is, I'm not going to create this block here, so it will throw some errors. That's completely okay. I will go to the main and I will use the BlocProvider here. So in outside this material app, we need to use that BlocProvider. We can't use inside this one. So simply here wrap with a widget, and you will see option called as BlocProvider, and these options are shown because we are using block extension in our VS Code. Rather than using this pre-built one, for now I will just click on this wrap with widget and I will use BlocProvider. Now it is throwing me an error that create parameter is required but there is no corresponding argument, which means when we use a BlocProvider, we need to mention the type of block we want to create, or cubit. So simply create, and it is suggesting me context, so simply context, and here I can mention my block, which is counter block, and like this. Now it is giving me errors because I am using block here. So for now, let's assume I don't want to dispose it, and if I just go down, we were passing that block to the block builder. Now in case of this block providers, we don't need to manually pass this block here like this. It will automatically find that from the context of this particular screen. So we don't have to write it like this for now. And as we go down, then how we use it? Will it find directly like this? Okay, it won't work. Okay, we have to find it here manually. So how we do that? So we can do it like final, and I can write block is equals to context. Whatever we are injecting in the provider is stored inside this context variable, and we can find it like read. Okay, we can use this function, and we just need to mention the type we are finding. So we are finding the type of counter block, and then we can use it like this, block.add. So what it will do is, it will read the counter block instance which is stored or injected inside the context. So control save. Now I just need to restart the app. When I move to the block screen, you will see counter block is created and when I tap on this, the value is getting incremented. Now I go back and I again move to the block screen, and this time you will see the same counter block is used here. So as I tap, the state is persistent because that single block is being used. And one more thing which you noticed, this counter block is created when we actually first time use it here. Okay, so when this code renders, it's check out there is a need for a counter block, and then only this block provider creates the counter block. So if you are thinking like when we create it here it will be created right now, it don't work like that. It is only created when it is used. Okay, if you want to create it right now when we initialize this, you can make this lazy to false. Okay, by default it is true. When you make it false, it will be created right now, but I will not recommend this because we should create blocks or qubit when it is used, or else it will take unnecessary space in the memory. Now moving to the qubit, the same we want to do for the qubit. So qubit is created, we go back and the qubit will be recreated again. So simply what we can do is I can just comment this one from here, and I can comment this dispose as well, and there is an error here, so I can comment this one as well because it will automatically find it here. And simply below I just need to find it again, so I will comment this one and I will override the on pressed. So what I will do is I can create an object like qubit, and there is another way through which we can find the blocks and qubits rather than writing like context. So that way goes like block provider. Okay, we need to use the instance of it, block provider dot of context, and we just need to mention the type it here like this. Okay, so this counter qubit. So this is also a way through which we can find the provider, but I like the second one, okay, because it is shorter in nature. So context dot read and simply like this. So you can use both ways, either you can find it like this or you can find it like this, the both will work. Okay, so simply here qubit dot increment counter and simply control save. Now it is throwing me an error because this block builder is not able to find counter qubit in the global context because we haven't created it yet. Okay, because there is no counter qubit here. So how can I add a counter qubit? Should I add another provider like this? So like block provider, and I can use qubit. Okay, so should I add it like this? This will also work, but this doesn't seem that good because you are using nested. So to overcome this issue, there is something called as multi-block provider. So by the name you might have understood the functionality. Multi-block provider help us to create multiple blocks or qubits in a single go. So how we can do that? So for now let me remove this line, and it is throwing an error that you should provide providers. So what we will do is we will go like providers, and what should we provide in this? So we need to provide something called as block provider, and inside the create we need to provide context, and then we can do it like this. Okay, so it's like creating a block provider but inside a multi-block provider, and same I can do for the qubit, and simply control save. Now I can just restart the app. Okay, and after that once I move to the qubit, you will see counter qubit is created, and plus plus I go back, I go to the block is created, plus plus I go back and again go to the qubit. It is not created again, it is only created once and the state is preserved. So this is how we use block provider and multi-block provider. Now going to that fancy term, dependency injection. So there is a standard definition here which says dependency injection or DI in Flutter is a design pattern that allows you to inject dependencies like services, class or objects into your code rather than creating them directly within the class. So to keep it simple, this is a kind of a dependency injection. Okay, so we are using multi-block provider or block provider to inject this object of counter block and this object of counter qubit into our code, and we are using that in another screen or another class by simply finding it out, okay, that injected dependency. So we don't have to create it again and again and again in every class. Okay, it is kind of a similar to the global variables concept, but in this case we actually have to find it out. Okay, that's the different thing. Now there is one more thing called as block repository provider. Now for now you don't know much about repositories, so I am ignoring it for now. In the future we will be using that. So if you want to know a little bit about block repository provider, you can go to the official docs for now, okay, and you can click on this repository provider. So it is similar to that of BlocProvider. So what it does is we create a repository which is indirectly a class, and we can find it like this, or we can use repository provider and we can call functions on it. There is also called as multi-repository provider and another stuff. So if you want to take a little task from me, I will recommend you to check out this context.read versus context.watch and this context.select. Okay, so just go to the docs. I will providing the link in the description. I will recommend you to check this one out. Okay, so that's it for this video. See you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.